easier
Yeah.
financially, at least.
But it starts off with the finances, right? To be able to pass down to do that.
Mm-hmm.
That's why class is always at the front of my mind.
And you know what's funny too, because people oftentimes will be like, "Oh, you're a person who is snobby or whatever like that is snobby for a reason," and or they're just or snob, excuse me, they're snobby for no reason, right? And they just want to be mean, and that's just how they are. No, actually, I think, and this is not in defense of classism and people acting that way, but what I have found, especially with Black folks, is that when families have worked hard to get to a certain point, they are going to be very shoulder to shoulder, not wanting people who they think might ruin what they've worked hard for to come into the family. And it's not really that different for, no matter what level of class you're talking about. If your family is vacation up and has a house on Martha's Vineyard and stuff, it's going to be very hard for somebody who comes from a working class background to be able to come into those environments and be, more than quote unquote the help, right? Are they really wanting you to marry their daughter?
Yeah.
For those very same reasons. So these are the dynamics of class that we often talk about. And a lot of times I think people in our community are shut out because of that,
And it's not to say that it's not to be in defense of it, because I'm definitely not in defense of like a caste system,
right?
Or classism, but it's just one of those things that's just pervasive.
It's an explanation. It's not a defense,
Yeah, and it helps to inform writing.
Yeah.
Especially when you're trying to make something at least kind of realistic, And it helps me to interpret what I'm seeing, because I assume that the text is within this realm.
Yeah. I agree with you on that. Back to the story. We have Mike, who has just busted up everything, and focusing on Marcus in this scene. Marcus is very much a go along to get along kind of guy, but he at least does say, "Nah, Mike, I'm not trying to really hang with you like that." But I think he's saying it more so because he is trying to be a part of the group with the other guys. Not because if Mike was there by himself, he would have been on the jet skis with Mike. That's what I think.
Yeah.
And he probably wants to get back inside and find out what's going on, because his wife is going to be upset, and that's going to, make more arguments.
Maybe we should leave then.
I'm with you.
No, guys, we spent our last to be here. We're not leaving.
So then once they all reconvene inside, you see Angela and Marcus there with the rest of the couples, and they're all basically talking about Mike and how he needs to go. And Diane says, maybe we should leave. And Angela's like, yeah, now we're talking or something like that. She agrees. And it makes sense to me that, hey, if he's in this space, you don't want to be here, you can always decide to leave.
Yeah. But so what's really crazy is it's about Mike being there, and Sheila's the one like, we spent our last, so we gonna stay here with Mike.
Oh my gosh. He got to go, but at the end of all of this, it turns out that, they're not gonna do one doggone thing.
Yeah, but they should have just left then. Y'all got some money to go somewhere else. I'm sure you can find some spot, depending on which weekend this is.
Exactly. And you got Angela. Angela's like, hey, y'all be rational. Because, of course, Patricia's like, everybody calm down. You got to be rational. And
but if this fool gets out of line, I'm taking it straight to the streets.
Then Terry's like, oh, y'all, y'all be rational. She gonna be ghetto.
Y'all be rational. She gonna be ghetto.
Talking about Angela. And I'm like, okay, so see, in the last movie, we never saw anyone call Angela ghetto except for Mike. He makes that reference about her being ghetto, but nobody else
while they're
does.
having an argument.
Right. Now you got Terry making jokes, making her the butt of the joke about being ghetto. And see, like, to me, this is the part where I'm like, okay, it's not nice, because ghetto is obviously being used as a pejorative here. It's not that ghetto is a good thing. Whereas, honestly, the way that Angela is explaining it, she's basically like, I'm from Camden, and I'm basically going to get to the bottom of this. So she's the one who's actually willing to be the most direct and handle the situation.
And to not allow this dude who, when Terry then brought up what happened in Colorado, allow him to just be amongst the group still doing what he's doing. Like,
Yes, but that's being labeled as ghetto while the rest of you spineless folks sit around and let somebody that you calling your friend and her new husband be uncomfortable while the man that tried to break up all y'all's marriages is just comfortable and up in the same house.
And for a quick tangent, ghetto is always used as a pejorative. Well, a lot of the times, but I guess it's kind of hard to turn a tide on that. But to me, it describes, I guess, what we consider as, the black hood, the ghetto, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it could be like the ghetto. What is ghetto is producing some of the best sports talent in the world. That's ghetto, right? Being able to swing a racket like the Williams sisters do is ghetto, right? Or just not having enough money to get by and pay your rent is ghetto at times, right? It's ghetto. But just to use it as a slur to me is just terrible. And we've adapted this because of, I don't know, so we're not going to get into the reason why. But yeah, for someone to be from the ghetto and to think that to be ghetto or to be in the ghetto says something negative about that person is very terrible and is detrimental. Because there's nothing wrong with being ghetto. It's nothing wrong with living in the ghetto, being from the ghetto.
Because it all points back to like this
capitalism and class.
That and this indictment of people for being poor.
Yeah.
And if you're poor, it's wrong, and you're wrong because you're poor. Basically.
Yeah.
But
and you live in society as a poor person.
I would also say in the terms of the use of the word ghetto, I do think that ghetto accurately describes a lot of things if we could do it without the subtext.
Ghetto, it just points to the innovation and the style and creativity of certain people in the United States. Because most of it is, you ghetto because you, I don't know, put plastic over your window when it got busted. Yeah. Because you probably couldn't afford a window.
The ingenuity, right?
Yeah.
All of that, but that's
ghetto. You ghetto because you wear certain type of clothes or your hair a certain way, or right? And it's nothing negative about that, but it's used as negative because of, just the hate for what's considered a lower class when it's just economics.
Let's go and unpack so we can finish having our discussion.
Marcus and Angela's part of the scene ends with them going upstairs to essentially have makeup sex.
Yeah.
As was referred to earlier. And is it even makeup sex? Because are you even quote unquote fighting? Right? If your baseline is constant bickering, then are you really mad at each other in that moment? Or are you just having sex?
Yeah, we'll see more about that. It's definitely not makeup. But one thing he did do was a really terrible sports analogy, right? Talking about to prevent the other team from scoring points.
We can run interference to keep Mike from scoring any points against the opposing team.
But Angela's went harder. I don't know what she said about can't get your men out of the dugout or whatever.
Yeah.
That was so fly.
You can't get nobody off the 50-yard line because you can't get your little sliders out of the dugout.
She said you can't get anybody past the 50-yard line because you can't get your little sliders out of the dugout.
So what does that mean?
I don't know, like maybe what I was saying in the last video about shooting blanks, or he can't get it up. You know what I mean? Like it just sounds like you can't get her to where she needs to be because of some deficiency in your sexual prowess.
Yeah, but like, weren't they just talking about something totally different with like his career though?
This character is just doesn't make sense, right? So she's just always saying stuff and all kind of stuff out of place, right? They're just here for the comedy.
But I need okay, listen, y'all say that we make these movies better. All right, we see plot holes, we see problems in the writing.
Okay.
I need for her to be the fool who says like these amazing things. I can make it make
sense.
Make it make sense. Come on.
To me, when I hear that, what I just previously said is what I hear. Right. But it can be in this context. He's talking about we don't want Mike to score for the get points against the opposing team. We don't want Mike to, basically upset Sheila and Troy.
That's how I took it.
Right. And then what she says and everybody laughs. Oh, ha ha ha. And he's like, I've been hosting too long. And then she says that you only working on the weekend, right? So his mental deficiency is this. He can't get the sliders out the dugout. He can't think. You know what I'm saying? He's not sure. He can't get anybody past the 50-yard line. He can't get anybody to understand what he's talking about. You know, he can't, express himself properly. So that's a way I could make it mean something.
And another way that I could make it mean something else in this scene too, which is not exactly what she was talking about, but I think the case can be made for it, is that the little sliders that won't get out the dugout is the spineless folks that sitting around here that won't handle Mike. You can't get them to get on the field and do what they need to do and lead and leave or lead. Either one, right? You can't get them to do what they need to do in order to make the score, so to speak. You can't get them to do what they need to do.
Yeah. So, but see, that's the thing. And we have another channel called Axiom Amnesia 2.0 where we talked about the film Training Day.
Yeah.